1732, in Westmoreland County, Virginia, to a family that belonged to the class of prosperous planters. My childhood was spent in an atmosphere of strict upbringing and home education. Special attention was paid to the study of mathematics, geometry, and trigonometry. This knowledge, gained in my youth, laid a solid foundation for my future career as a surveyor and a military man. From an early age, I learned the value of discipline, order, and hard work, which largely determined my life's path. My formal education was modest by the standards of the Virginian gentry, but my thirst for knowledge was insatiable. I dedicated myself to self-improvement, meticulously copying out rules of civility and decent behavior to cultivate my character. My studies were practical, aimed at mastering the skills necessary to manage a large estate and navigate the world. This pragmatic approach to learning would serve me well in the complex challenges that lay ahead, providing a bedrock of logic and reason upon which I would build my life. At the age of 16, I embarked on a career as a surveyor. This profession took me into the untamed wilderness of the Shenandoah Valley. Life on the frontier was demanding, teaching me self-reliance and resilience. I learned to read the land, to lead men through difficult terrain, and to appreciate the vast potential of the American continent. These expeditions not only honed my technical skills, but also instilled in me a deep and abiding love for my country's landscape and a vision for its westward expansion. In 1752, after the untimely death of my elder half-brother Lawrence, the responsibility of managing the Mount Vernon estate fell upon my shoulders. This place became not just my home, but my true passion. I immersed myself in studying advanced methods of agriculture, striving for the maximum efficiency and prosperity of the plantation. Mount Vernon became for me a symbol of the stability and peaceful life to which I always aspired, a sanctuary from the turbulent world of politics and war. My military career began in the tumultuous years of the French and Indian War. Service in the ranks of the British Army was a harsh school for me. I gained invaluable experience in conducting combat operations in difficult conditions and learned to make quick, balanced decisions on which people's lives depended. These years tempered my character, taught me resilience, and prepared me for the great trials that lay ahead, shaping me from a provincial surveyor into a seasoned military officer. My early command was a baptism by fire. The surrender at Fort Necessity in 1754 was a humbling lesson in the brutal realities of warfare and the consequences of inexperience. However, I learned from my mistakes. I came to understand the importance of discipline, supply lines, and adapting tactics to the rugged American wilderness. These hard-won lessons were invaluable, teaching me more about leadership than any victory could have. They forged in me a resolve to never again be outmaneuvered or unprepared. After the war, I returned to my beloved Mount Vernon and, in 1759, married Martha Dandridge Custis, a gracious and intelligent widow. Her presence brought great joy and stability to my life. Together, we devoted ourselves to improving the estate. I experimented with crop rotation, soil enrichment, and innovative farming tools. These years were a period of profound personal happiness and professional satisfaction, a time when I could be a husband, a stepfather, and a forward-thinking agriculturist. As the years passed, the relationship between the American colonies and Great Britain grew increasingly strained. As a member of the Virginia House of Burgesses, I witnessed firsthand the rising tide of discontent over British taxation and control. I was not a radical by nature, but I firmly believed in the rights of Englishmen and the principle of self-governance. I joined my fellow patriots in protesting these injustices, my voice adding to the growing chorus demanding liberty. The year 1775 was a turning point in my destiny. The shots fired at Lexington and Concord echoed throughout the colonies, signaling the start of a revolution. The Continental Congress, faced with the need to create an army from scratch, bestowed upon me an immense honor and a crushing responsibility. I was appointed Commander-in-Chief of the Continental Army. I accepted with a heavy heart, fully aware of the monumental task before us and the powerful empire we dared to defy. The army I took command of near Boston was a collection of brave but undisciplined militiamen. My first and most critical task was to forge them into a cohesive fighting force. We lacked everything: cannons, gunpowder, proper uniforms, and military training. Through relentless drilling, stern discipline, and by setting a personal example of sacrifice and dedication, we slowly began to build the foundations of a professional army capable of challenging the seasoned British regulars. The winter of 1777 to 1778 at Valley Forge was the ultimate test of endurance for our army and for me personally. My soldiers suffered from unbearable cold, hunger, and disease. The camp was a scene of misery, and the cause of independence seemed to hang by a thread. Yet, even in these inhuman conditions, our spirit was not broken. We shared the last crust of bread, supported one another, and held fast to our belief in victory. That winter forged us into a true brotherhood. The winter of 1777 to 1778 at Valley Forge was the ultimate test of endurance for our army and for me personally. My soldiers suffered from unbearable cold, hunger, and disease. The camp was a scene of misery, and the cause of independence seemed to hang by a thread. Yet, even in these inhuman conditions, our spirit was not broken. We shared the last crust of bread, supported one another, and held fast to our belief in victory. That winter forged us into a true brotherhood. The victory at Saratoga in 1777 proved to be a critical turning point, not just on the battlefield, but in the halls of international diplomacy. This decisive American triumph convinced the Kingdom of France that our cause was viable. They officially recognized our independence and entered the war as our powerful ally. The infusion of French naval power, troops, and financial support was a godsend, transforming our struggle from a colonial rebellion into a global conflict that tilted in our favor. In 1781, after years of grueling warfare, the decisive moment arrived. Through a series of brilliant maneuvers and deceptions, we, along with our French allies, cornered the main British army under General Cornwallis at Yorktown, Virginia. With the French fleet blockading the sea and our combined armies laying siege by land, we trapped the enemy. The constant bombardment of their fortifications signaled that the end of the long war was finally within our grasp. The relentless pressure of the siege proved too much for the British. On October 19, 1781, General Cornwallis surrendered his entire army. The war for independence was effectively over. It was a great triumph for which we had paid a high price: thousands of lives and years of hardship. But we had achieved the ultimate prize: freedom and the right to determine our own destiny. The United States of America was now a sovereign nation. After the war's conclusion, I did what many in the world thought impossible. At the height of my power, I willingly relinquished it. I traveled to Annapolis and formally resigned my commission as Commander-in-Chief before the Congress. My greatest desire was to return to my beloved Mount Vernon and live out the rest of my days as a private citizen, far from the demands of public life. I had served my country in war. Now I wished only for peace. However, my country called upon me once more. The young nation was faltering under the weak Articles of Confederation. In 1787, I was honored to be chosen to preside over the Constitutional Convention in Philadelphia. For 4 long, hot months, we debated, compromised, and forged a new framework for our government. The result was the United States Constitution, the foundational law of our new republic, designed to secure the blessings of liberty for ourselves and our posterity. In 1789, I was unanimously elected the first President of the United States. This immense honor was coupled with a colossal responsibility. I served 2 terms, striving to create a strong and stable government founded on the unshakable principles of freedom, democracy, and the rule of law. My administration focused on establishing national credit, creating a foreign policy of neutrality, and proving to the world that a government by the people could succeed. In 1797, after 8 years in office, I voluntarily stepped down from the presidency, establishing the precedent of a peaceful transfer of power that has become a cornerstone of our democracy. In my farewell address, I offered my parting advice to the nation I had helped create. I warned against the dangers of political factions and urged my countrymen to avoid permanent alliances with foreign powers, charting a course of independence and unity for the young republic. I returned to my cherished Mount Vernon, where I spent the last years of my life. I died on December 14, 1799. I lived a long life full of momentous events, and I am proud to have been able to serve my country and its people. I believe that we laid a solid foundation for the future of a great nation, one that will carry the light of freedom and democracy to the entire world, proving that a government of the people, by the people, and for the people shall not perish from the earth.